Hello, and welcome back to the sim. In this one, we're jumping back in with the Vision Jet, as version 1.2.0 is available in the marketplace. With it comes a few great fixes and a bunch of little features and quality of life add-ons. Now this is all while we wait for the eventual release of the new G3000 for AAU1, but hey, it's something to tide us over and some quality of life improvements around the rest of the jet. So let's hop in and review what it is that they've done. So when we come into the jet, there are a few things that we're going to notice. One being, hey, we have the parking brake cast message. So when you turn the parking brake off and on, you're going to see the parking brake cast message. And of course, when you turn off that parking brake, it will close the doors for you. But of course, on your VAMS, you also saw the storage cover is now default off. The covers aren't, and our luggage door is fully controllable. And of course, our cabin door is controllable. And if we turn off the chocks, the cabin door can still open and close. But like we said, if you turn off that parking brake, it's going to automatically close the door for you as well. So let's bring up the version history real quick. So looking at the version history, they released it on December 8th. So that's when it hit the store, which is great. Decreased de-ice rate. So that was one of the first things. It's kind of funny because it doesn't get the bullet point, just the way it creates the version history. But it decreased the de-ice rate. So this is going to be a more realistic de-icing rate. The MACH crossover altitude was adjusted. So that's when here our speed bug is going to change over from knots to Mach around 21,000 feet because that's where 165 knots does the Mach crossover. So it's a little bit different in the Gen 1. The Gen 2 is a little bit higher, so that's been fixed. Increased ice light brightness. So there was some comments, I guess, that the ice lighting wasn't bright enough. They've increased that. They fixed the de-ice boots animation, so it's only going to come on with engines on. And so basically, that's referring to out here how the boots, they would be animating even when the engine wasn't running. If you had your de-ice enabled for your wings, so if we just turned on like all the de-ice switches, it was animating even with the engine off. So as you can see, that is no longer the case. They fixed the luggage straps to disappear when the luggage shows. So let's check that out while we're at it. So if we go ahead and using our VAMS control, since I have that externally on my Stream Deck, so if I open up the luggage, you see the straps. And so if we were to go into the luggage section and load, say, the golf trip or the snowboarding trip, right, those straps shouldn't cover over the top of the baggage. So that's good. That stuff has been eliminated, which makes life look good. So let's go ahead now that we got that loaded, and let's close up our door. So we're going to come back into the cabin, and we're going to talk about fixed cast messages for takeoff trim. So that just refers to the cast messaging reporting properly for takeoff trim levels and making sure that they're set. Added T-bug to indicate the takeoff thrust that's required. So when you come in on your MFT, there is now the T indicator that's going to show up where the takeoff thrust needs to be. Reworked elevator trim for less sensitivity and better control. So basically, it's going to feel a little smoother and less pitchy on takeoff, and the trim itself is more accurate. So definitely takes about 1 second of holding down the trim for the indicator to show. So as I sit there holding down my trim, it's about 1 second per degree, And according to Zach and Stretch, that is about the right feeling for when flying and trimming. They force the traffic system TAS into operating mode. So this has to do with the traffic advisory, been reported many times, I guess, as having been not turning on. So in the MFD, so under traffic settings, it was not coming, it was constantly going into standby. And as you can see here, now instead it is forcing it into operating mode. They've added simple VNAV. So this again is a holdover. This works only for descents. Now we are going to do a follow-up video to this one, which will show you how to use the VNAV and how to fly it. But real quick, while we're here, basically when you're operating in your flight plan and you add a procedure, so for the arrival, since we're going to go into CYOW on this flight, we're going to do the capital 5, and we're going to do it from L sub. That's fine. We're probably going to go into runway 25 today. So when you load this in, right, one of the things you have to do is you're going to have to come in and you're going to have to enter your constraints manually. So for example, Visol, I believe, is around 5,000 feet. I'll have to reference the chart. But you will be required to enter your constraints. You're also going to need to go into the VNAV, so it might be useful to keep it over here. You need to enable it, but you also need to maintain this screen open. So if you were to choose to come over here and you were going back into your map and you weren't in this VNAV profile screen, then what's going to happen is the VNAV is going to freeze. So as one requirement right now, not only do you have to manually enter those constraints, so all of the constraints are going to have to be entered into manually, you also need to keep this screen open during the VNAV. Also, VNAV is not going to be able to be enabled 1 minute to top a descent, which again, we'll see when we're up there. This will change. But when you're within 1 minute, then VNAV will be enabled. You will also see your constraint populate here. So dial down your altitude select, enable VNAV, and you're off to the races. Change load-in state to cover off on apron parking. So enough people complained about the cover being there and you are in the jet, so they flipped it. So now the cover is off when you're loading in at the apron or parking, and that also means you'll put it on, but it won't stay on when you come back to the plane on a reload. They updated the audio to include the 500-foot call-out. They adjusted the crash detection, so there were some overly aggressive landings, and it was detecting a crash when it was still survived. That parking brake CAS message, we mentioned that as one of the other CAS messages that's added. So that's very helpful. Heading sync drift fix. So what this is referring to is that previously you would have your heading bug, and when you would click the knob to sync the heading, what was happening is over time it would slowly drift. And this is because the sim simulates heading drift. And avionics, like a G3000, have a magnometer which is constantly recalibrating itself. And therefore, the avionics have now had something added to them to make sure that the heading bug does not, or the heading magnometer does not drift. So now, no matter what, 2 hours into a flight, when you go to sync your heading bug, so if you were, previous heading, you're on course, you can bug up by pressing the bug, and it will go to the heading that you're currently flying in, and you don't have to worry about that being drifted any longer. Taxi status enables headphones, so visually only, meaning If you start to taxi, just turning off the parking brake will no longer make the headphones go away. But if you start to move and start taxiing, they will be gone. All that stuff is in your VAMS. So if I went to VAMS, I go to the Bose headphones. I can put them on my head, or I can put them on the dash. And if they're on my head, I can also enable the noise reduction, which you can hear that massive drop and change with the audio noise reduction. And if we disabled noise reduction, that's what it sounds like. It's pretty cool that they have that simulated. So let's go ahead and put those back on the dash. Takeoff thrust advisory cast sensitivity. So this has been adjusted so that when you go full throttle on your controls, it will show takeoff thrust. You don't have to click the throttle handle all the way up. When doors open, bleed, and oxygen cast messages show, and that's more realistic. Now we have the oxygen off, the bleed off, and we've got the probe heat off. So all those cast messages come on with the engine start to be more realistic. And we open the cabin door, which you see we can do, not a problem. That's on. So even if we come and we turn these on, right, we'll still have our probe heat. So all of those cast messages properly come on when the engine's running. Door is open, so we see the door open, so we close the door. Cast messages are present. Now, VOR course can now be set using large touchscreen knob. I know this came up a few times in the Discord. There is nothing telling you about it, so you have to be on the PFD. And obviously, you would need to be in navigation mode. But now, when controlling that large knob, you can see you can control the VOR course. So again, this was added in as a quality of life holdover until the G3000, just like the VNAV is a limited one until the next generation G3000. Though the need for this to be open will be rectified in a hot fix before the next G3000 is implemented. So this will be fixed. This here, there's no indication that this is going to control the course, but that's where you find it. If you are on Navcom, then obviously this is going to be controlling your communications. So there I can see it's controlling my standby frequency. When I go to the PFD, now it is only controlling the course of my VOR. With that, we have covered everything that's new in 1.2.0. We're about ready to get out of here and head to Ottawa to run a VNAV into an RNAV. But we'll do that next time. If you like this video, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. And come along next time. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.